Welcome to Kids Recall. In today's video, we'll be going through the 2006 movie, Zoom. It's time to recall. Let's get started. Turn on subtitles and spoilers ahead. The movie starts and we go on to learn that there is a team of 5 friends who used to fight evil forces to protect the world, and they were called the Zenith. 5 young superheroes led by Jack Shephard, also known as Captain Zoom, and his older brother Connor Shephard, also known as Concussion, who fought to protect the world from various threats. The American military sought to enhance the team's powers using an experimental form of radiation called Gamma-13. This made Zoom faster and stronger, but created a psychotic break in Concussion, who became paranoid and delusional. He started hearing and seeing things that never existed in reality. Thinking Zoom and the team betrayed him, Concussion killed his teammates, Marksman, Ace, and Doravia. Zoom defeated Concussion and trapped him in a portal from which he will never be able to get out. But it came at a big cost, as he himself lost his powers in the process. 30 years have gone by, and we go on to see that the doctor who experimented on these two goes on to learn that Zoom did defeat Concussion back then, but he is still alive and he's in that portal. On top of that, he adds that the man is not aged either. He's still as young as he was 13 years ago. He's now trying to break out of the portal so that he can exact revenge on the people who, according to him, did him wrong. General Larrabee is told of the danger posed by Concussion, and he goes on to decide that they are going to make another Zenith team that is going to be as much powerful as the previous one, and they will then train them. First, they have to find kids who happen to have superpowers, because no common human being would be able to defeat Concussion when he comes out to take his revenge on them all. The general tells them that they only have 12 days left, and that is why Larrabee tells his men to find Zoom right away. He now lives as Jack, like a normal human being, because he almost lost all his powers when he fought Concussion 30 years ago. Larrabee tells his men that Jack is the only one who can train these kids to fight Concussion, so they have to bring Jack to him at all costs. He even says as much as to bring him with force if he's not willing to comply. They then make their way to his place. The group then goes to take him, also has a psychologist named Marcia, who happens to be a big fan of Zoom. Zoom thinks their idea is a flop, and he says they don't need to train another team. He, as expected, goes on to say that he's not going to go with them, and so they go on to knock him unconscious and bring him to the general. When he gets there, he sees Dr. Grant and General Larrabee, and both of them decide the fact that Concussion is about to come back should be kept as a secret, because if Zoom gets to know this, he's going to become emotionally involved and it will affect his training of the kids. The scene that shifts to the kids who are going to be trained by Zoom. First of all, we get to see Cindy, who's just a 6-year-old girl, but one should not fool themselves by her size, because she has the power to live everything or everyone and sends them flying away. The next is a girl named Summer Jones. She doesn't need to use her hands to whoop anyone's butt, because she has the power to control anything or anyone just using her brain. On top of that, she also has the power to read other people's minds. Next, we see a boy named Dylan who has the power to go invisible, and we see that he always gets scolded or insulted by his teachers for using his powers in the wrong manner. The last one is named Tucker, who has the power to turn himself into a giant, as he can enhance the size of any part of his body whenever he wants and use it against his enemies. It's hard for them to get trained among common people, so they go on to make their way onto a military base where they're expected to be trained by Zoom. On the other hand, we see Zoom, who has been bound to a chair, as he fully comes to his senses. He too is in the military base. Larrabee then goes on to give him 2 options. One option is to spend his life in jail, and the other option is to take the $1 million he's offering him and train the new superhero kids. Zoom, of course, chooses the latter one, and then they get started on the training part. Dr. Grant again goes on to introduce him to Marcia, who is thrilled to have the opportunity to work with Zoom. She goes on to tell him that they're going to have to train these kids in a different manner at this time. They are not going to conduct any experiments on them because it didn't go well last time. Zoom is shocked to learn that the new superheroes are going to be little kids. He's skeptical about it, but doesn't say anything. They then get started with auditions, and all the kids come forward to see their unique powers, but only the 4 aforementioned kids get selected. Grant and Larrabee, on the other hand, are really worried and go on to wonder whether Zoom is going to be able to train the kids in such a short time, as Concussion is expected to make it out of here within 11 days. Larrabee is now desperate, so he goes on to decide that he's going to use Gamma-13 again. Grant isn't happy about it, but Larrabee goes on to say that he really does not have another choice, and on top of that, he does not seem to care what kind of effects it's going to have on the kids. Zoom then goes on to introduce himself to the team of superhero kids, and they do not take him seriously at all. They think he's just a common man who is next to useless to them. Marcia then comes forward and goes on to show an old comic book about Zenith. She tells them that the man standing in front of them is actually Zoom. When they get to know this, the 2 smaller kids are shocked, and they're now respecting Jack the Zoom. However, Dylan and Summer, who are teenagers, don't respect the man at all. The scientists then go on to test the powers of the kids, and Cindy comes forward to showcase her powers. She's able to lift anything with minimal effort, and she's always wearing a pink dress looking like a little princess. And that does not seem like a dress a superhero should be wearing. Dylan goes on to give them all a really hard time because he has the power to make himself invisible. Whenever they try to check his power, he goes invisible, and they finally come up with a plan. They go on to make a machine to detect the movements of the boy so that they are aware of where he is. One day, when Zoom is talking to Marcia, he goes on to ask her the reason behind a new Zenith team. She doesn't know the answer to the question because she herself is unaware of what's going on there. Later that day, Marcia goes on to brief her superiors about the progress they've made, and all of them realize that these kids have great powers, but they have no idea how to use the powers to make the full use of it against their enemy, so they need a lot of training. When the meeting is over, Grant goes to the kids and takes them all to a lab where they all meet a robot named Peb, and this robot is going to give these kids company now. With the help of Peb, the man takes the kids to a special room where they see mini spaceships. Jack, along with the kids, go on to sit in a spaceship, and all of them make their way out. They make a round in the city in their spaceship, and by the time they get back, the news is out that the Earth has been attacked by aliens. When they make their way back to the military base, all of them are angry at Jack for taking out the spaceship like that. They, however, cannot say anything because he is, of course, their last hope. One night when Jack is asleep, he's awoken by Cindy, who's unable to sleep after she had a nightmare. She then tells Jack that she wants to sleep in his room. Jack feels bad for the little girl and tells her that she can sleep on the couch. The next day, the training of these kids is enhanced, and it becomes dangerous, so now they have to be way more careful and serious. All of them are trapped in a big room that is full of bots who are going to be shooting at the kids, and they're going to have to dodge the bullets. And Jack then goes on to train them one by one, because he's realized that when the kids are together, it's hard to control them all. He teaches them how to make full use of their powers in the best way possible. After having trained for the whole day, the kids are tired, and some are a little injured as well. They make their way back to their rooms. Dylan is now skeptical of what is going on with them. He goes on to say that no one actually cares about them, adding that the military is using them only for their advantage. He further adds that Jack is doing this because he got paid good money to do it. Cindy really respects Jack, so she actually gets hurt after learning this and goes on to confront Jack about it. However, Jack seems to have no answer for her. Turns out that Dylan was right. Cindy learns that Jack is only doing this to save his life from the military, and then, of course, there's money as well. Jack then goes on to feel bad for the kids. We learn that Dylan has tried to escape from the military base, which is why he's been in prison now. Jack feels bad for the boy and goes on to see him. Jack then goes on to tell him the stories from when he and his brother were trained like this many years ago. Their training was actually way deadlier than what these kids have been doing. He goes on to tell him that he and his brother were just as stubborn as Dylan is. But when they got to learn the actual use of their powers, they went on to save the world many times from multiple dangers, and Jack is proud of that. That's when Dylan goes on to realize that Zoom and Concussion are actually real-life superheroes. Jack then starts to get emotional when he talks about his brother, because it's hard for him, given the fact of how it ended between the two. He then manages to get Dylan out of jail as well. Jack then goes on to give Dylan a solo training session. There they go on to learn that being invisible isn't the only power Dylan has. He has other powers as well. He then goes on to tell the boy to focus and try to find Summer from where they currently are. When he is able to focus on Summer, he tells Jack that he can see her dancing in her room. This power is called mind sight. He does not need to move, but he can get to know and see what the other person is doing and where they are. Jack then goes on to tell the boy that the power he has is really rare, so he goes on to make him the leader of the team. Jack is then seen with Marcia. They seem to get along great, and Jack goes on to appreciate all the effort she's been making to help him with training of the kids. Marcia's really happy when she gets praised by the man she really likes. The scene changes to Grant and Larrabee, who are currently present at the scene from where they expect Concussion to make his way back. Larrabee then goes on to deploy a group of soldiers there to keep an eye out and report if they see any kind of movement in the area. Grant plans on distracting Concussion with the help of the kids, and when he's distracted enough, Grant is going to trap him in a scientific net and take away his superpowers. Only 48 hours are left before Concussion shows up, and Jack, on the other hand, realizes the kids have been putting in many hard hours in their training for the last few days, so he goes on to set up a party for them. On the other hand, we go on to learn that the military does not believe the new team has sufficient power to hold him at bay and plans to bombard the children with Gamma-13. Zoom is horrified by the revelation and recruits Marcia to help him rescue the kids before they're bombarded with Gamma-13 during their escape. Marcia also reveals that she secretly possesses a form of rainbow-colored super breath. They make it to Concussion's arrival point, and Jack opts to confront him powerless and alone, but the kids refuse to abandon him. When Concussion arrives, Larrabee test fires a neutralizing net to trap Concussion, who easily blasted away towards Cindy. Fearing for her safety, Zoom's powers return, and he pulls her out of the way. Working together, Zoom recreates the original vortex using speed and his Gamma-13 energy, while the team and Marcia guide Concussion into it. Just before they send him back through, Dr. Grant yells to Zoom that if he closes the vortex, they can save Concussion. Zoom closes the vortex, and the subsequent energy vacuum pulls the Gamma-13 from Connor, which both restores his powers to normal and cures his psychosis. Zoom and Concussion are reunited, and 3 months later, Cindy is in play school, using her strength to pull the prince up the tower when he can't make the climb. Tucker is the goalie on the soccer team. Dylan's dating Summer, who's on the cheerleading team, using her telekinetic power to help build an upside-down pyramid. In addition, they still work together with Zoom as the new Zenith team, and with that, the movie comes to an end. Subscribe for more videos like this. Turn on that notification bell and leave a like to help the channel out. Thank you for watching.